The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer will present Trump with a plan to deploy nearly 30,000 European troops to Ukraine in an attempt to secure American support. According to the Telegraph, during a meeting in Washington, Starmer is expected to detail how European troops will be able to police any ceasefire agreement brokered by the US president. However, he will urge Trump to have US fighter jets and missiles on standby in Eastern Europe to respond if Russia violates the deal. The reassurance force strategy created by the UK and France was presented to European leaders at an emergency meeting in Paris earlier this week, reported the Telegraph. According to the plan, troops under the command of European countries would be deployed in Ukrainian cities, ports, and at other critical infrastructure sites, such as nuclear power plants, far from the current front line. The journalist, citing a Western official, stated that the mission will rely on technical monitoring, including drones and satellites, to provide a complete picture of what's going on. At the same time, the operation will be backed by sufficient firepower to track and shoot down these attacks in order to reopen Ukraine's airspace and allow commercial flights. The British Prime Minister and French President Emmanuel Macron are set to visit Washington next week, reported Reuters, citing the US National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Meanwhile, the Kremlin stated that any British plan to deploy troops to Ukraine as part of a potential peacekeeping mission would be unacceptable to Russia. Ukraine is ready to make a comprehensive agreement with the US on security and investment, stated President Zelenskyy. Following talks with the U.S. Special Envoy Keith Kellogg, Zelenskyy described the meeting as a good conversation that covered the battlefield situation, security guarantees for Ukraine, and a potential agreement on rare earth minerals. He also expressed gratitude for continued U.S. support and bipartisan backing, emphasizing the importance of American leadership in global security.
A meeting that restores hope. We need strong agreements with the United States, agreements that will truly work. Economy and security must always go hand in hand, and the details of the agreements matter. The better they are structured, the greater the results. With General Kellogg, we discussed the frontline situation, the need to release all our prisoners held in Russia, and the necessity of a reliable and clear system of security guarantees, one that ensures this war will never return and that Russians will never again destroy lives. We all need peace. Ukraine, Europe, America, everyone in the world.
The US and Ukraine are reportedly in talks over an updated minerals agreement after President Zelenskyy initially rejected a proposal from President Trump. This was reported by Axios, citing sources. According to them, the latest draft includes significant improvements and aligns with Ukrainian law. On Thursday, U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz emphasized the need for continued negotiations.
We're going to continue to have discussions about where that deal is going.
Russia is preparing to announce an alleged victory in the war against Ukraine and NATO, planning a large-scale propaganda disinformation campaign. According to the main intelligence directorate of Ukraine, the false announcement may be claimed on February 24th, which marks the third anniversary of Moscow's full-scale invasion. The Kremlin has instructed its propagandists along with intelligence agencies to intensify attempts to undermine public morale, destabilize Ukraine internally, and discredit the country on the international stage. The Ukrainian intelligence reported that the propaganda campaign seeks to erode Western support for Ukraine by spreading false narratives. The French President Emmanuel Macron shared what he plans to discuss with his U.S. counterpart during a visit to Washington next week. According to Macron, his aim is to convince Trump that U.S. interests are aligned with other European allies. He also wants to bring to Trump's attention that showing any weakness to Putin will complicate relations with China and Iran.
Et donc, ce que je vais faire, c'est je vais lui dire.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell him, basically, you can't be weak in the face of President Putin. It's not you. It's not what you're made of. It's not in your interest. How can you then be credible in the face of China if you're weak in the face of Putin? And you, who doesn't want Iran to get a nuclear bomb, you can't be weak with someone who's helping them get one. You, who doesn't want China to come and contest Taiwan or anywhere else, how can you explain that China does not have the right to invade Taiwan, but that Russia would have the right to invade Ukraine?
During a question and answer session, Macron also discussed Trump's recent remarks, noting that Zelenskyy is an elected president of a free system.
C'est pas le cas de Vladimir Poutine.
This is not the case for Vladimir Putin, who kills his opponents and who has been manipulating elections for a long time. This is not the case, unfortunately, in too many countries around the world. He then had to introduce martial law because there was war in his country. Do you think he can organize presidential elections or legislative elections in a country where several million Ukrainians have fled for their safety, in a country where he has mobilized several million others who are at the front?
Negotiations between Russia and the US show that Moscow has not given up its territorial goals in Ukraine, believes the EU Foreign Policy Chief Kallas. Moreover, the Kremlin wants to come back to the international arena.
What we understand from those interactions that they have had with the Americans, they haven't given up their goals. They want to have the maximum. And plus, on top of it, they also want the international, they want to be in the international arena again like nothing has happened before. So I mean, let us be let us understand what kind of signal we are sending if we are giving everything on the plate to the aggressor. It sends a signal to all the aggressors in the world that you can do this, because they will offer you on top of it something else.
Kallas said this on the sidelines of the G20 foreign ministers meeting in Johannesburg. British Foreign Secretary David Lammy also mentioned that he saw no signs that Moscow wants to end the war in Ukraine.
We have not got anywhere near a negotiated settlement. And I have to say, when I listen to what the Russians and what Lavrov has just said in the chamber this afternoon, I don't see an appetite to really get to that peace. And that peace could be achieved by leaving Ukraine tomorrow, just going and letting people get on with their lives and letting them have their sovereignty.
The percentage of US citizens who hold a favorable view of Russia has plummeted to 8% in 2024, marking the lowest level in the past 3 years, reported CNN citing Gallup. Meanwhile, 61% of US citizens now consider Russia to be an enemy, compared to just 4% who see it as a partner. CNN reported that the American view of Vladimir Putin closely mirrors their stance of Russia. In 2024, only 8% expressed confidence that he would do the right thing in global affairs, while 9% held a favorable opinion of him. Furthermore, Reuters and Ipsos reported that 52% of adult Americans support Ukraine using US weapons to strike Russia, while 42% oppose it. Ukraine unveiled the Trembita cruise missile at the Brave One Defense Tech Innovations Expo. During the event, the Trembita, charged by a powerful jet engine, was on display at the heart of the expo. The missile itself exists in 2 models, with a decoy version aimed at overwhelming enemy air defense systems and reportedly costing less than $5,000. Its reported warhead capacity ranges from 20 to 40 kilos, depending on the fuel to payload ratio. The Trembita cruise missile was revealed back in 2023 when the Ukrainian construction bureaus reported that they were creating a rocket powered by a pulse air jet engine.